The startup scene seems to be rising, and for good reason too. There's more funding available and content is now easily accessible. With co-working spaces, incubators, accelerators and innovation hubs popping up here and there, the industry appears not to be slowing down. But despite the rise, the startup culture has its own unique challenges that need to be addressed. And so we chat with Murtala Sani, the co-founder of Wesabi, who is of the opinion that Nigeria must focus on creating a startup-friendly environment.
I think it's still early days. The penetration of technology, it's still kind of low in Nigeria. While the users are actually trying our best, the citizens are making best of what we can do with what we have right now.
So what do you think is stopping the growth of technology the way we would expect it to be?
Basically, I think is education. There was an article I read about, the UN saying there are about 70 million kids out of school. So I think if we can improve education, I believe we can, improve the penetration of technology.
Now, by formal education, do you mean classroom, physical education? Because people would say that the number of infrastructure that we have cannot train the out-of-school kids.
Yes, formal education. At least people should know the basic. Basic is always, a stepping stone. Nobody's going to actually, teach you or take you to, through advanced education. Basic. Let people at least graduate from secondary school. So I think that works.
So as a startup, how do you think policies affect your growth or otherwise?
Okay, so personally, I will talk about the policy that have actually affected our own startup, which concerns payment. Now, we have two sides to our startup. We deal with the informal sector, and most of these guys don't have smartphones. So sometimes the payment, a lot of times, still has to be done in cash. Maybe if there was a technology like M-Pesa, which we could actually use here in Nigeria, where people can utilize USSD payment effectively. I'm not talking about the mobile money that is going around. It's not really a mobile money. Real mobile money, payment. I think that will go a long way. That's one policy, that could actually, I think, smoothen up things, businesses in Nigeria. It doesn't even have to do only with startup, with general businesses in Nigeria.
Muta, do you ever get scared that a policy can come out of nowhere and wipe you out?
Yes. I mean, it just took care of some startup. So, so you have to get scared, especially when you're dealing with a sector that is not so structured, which we are dealing with right now. We are dealing with people that are into construction, into home maintenance, artisans, plumbers. This is a sector that is not so structured. So, we don't know. Any policy could just come from the government one day and then we are out of business.
Big tech companies globally also invest in lobby machineries. Do you think that our startups should also toe that line?
It's hard to say because I don't have that data personally, and so it's quite hard to say if the startup ecosystem have put in place things to cushion this kind of effects or anything like that. But for future references, I believe there should be something in place, where startup actually come together and kind of team up together and able to cushion this kind of situation that might come in the future.
So in what ways do you think startups such as yours can leverage technology to really help grow the Nigerian economy?
All right. So one is actually improving, revenue generation for the informal sector, the artisans, the people, the semi-educated people. Now, the thing there is, there's a lot of trust gap between these guys and the middle class, and because these guys, most of them, fall into the lower middle class or even lower class of people. There's a trust gap. So sometimes, even you as a person, sometimes you have a doorknob at home And not because you don't want to fix that or not, but you just feel, I don't want anybody to come into my house, So that's the gap that we want to bridge. If we can bridge the trust gap, then you as a person are able to say, okay, I can call Wesabi and, calling these people and they can come fix their door. Now, if more people have that trust, that means more jobs are going to be created. That means more money for these guys.
One of the biggest issues that you mentioned that affect startups today is the issue of trust. How are you dealing with that?
I would rather deal with someone, that I feel, okay, I've gone through a certain process and I know that he has gone through, some certain stages than, a random person. Yes, not a random person can't, of course, go out there and be, and thrive, but then if we are able to structure this space, just like you mentioned Silicon Valley, in the first place, it's a structured environment. If we're able to structure this space more, then I think the trust is going to come in.
Now, Murtala, tell us, how are you dealing with the issue of funding? Because funding seems to be a topic that startups are interested in.
I think funding still, comes back to, trust. But then, even taking away the trust, I think a lot of foreign investors have shown the way that the emerging market in Africa, especially Nigeria, it's green. I think what we need more now is for the local investors, your local Dangotes or $10, to actually enter this space. And once they're able to do that, I think they will give more confidence to other local businessmen.
But it seems that every fundraise that we hear today is around FinTech. What's your opinion?
So 2 weeks ago, I had this discussion with a colleague of mine, and we actually analyzed this thing. And a decade ago, everything was aimed towards e-commerce. Maybe we're forgetting. I think there's even in the most developed startup space in the US right now, a lot of things are now schemed towards AI. AI and blockchain, businesses. So I think it's still coming together. The whole space is still coming together. Yes, it might be fintech now. Maybe in the next 5 years, it might be, service space, just like ours. You just have to hang in there.
Finally, this will be a two-in-one question. Where do you see your startup in 5 years, and what advice do you have for other startups like you?
All right. So in 5 years, at least we want to have been able to cover the entire Nigeria and, cover at least 2 more African cities, apart from Nigeria, and also having to engage minimum of 20,000 informal workers, generating revenue, making them live, at least a good lifestyle. That's our goal for the next 5 years. So my advice to start up is keep building, keep hanging in there. It's tough. There's no point with quoting anything. It's tough in Nigeria, especially in Africa. It's a tough place, to be a startup, but you just have to hang in there. I think patience will actually, bring you what you want in the long run.
Murtala, thank you for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I've been chatting with Murtala Sani, co-founder of Wesabi, who tells me that although building a startup can be challenging, it can also be rewarding, witnessing lives being transformed based on your work as a startup. Murtala states clearly that one thing that scares him today is inconsistent policies. Imagine being a startup that has invested a great deal in tackling a societal problem, then you wake up one morning and everything is gone, just like that. Nigeria must focus on creating a startup-friendly environment like Rwanda and other countries are already doing. Otherwise, we may lose up the momentum to smaller countries. It's a wrap on this edition of the show, but the conversation continues online. Join us on social media. Remember, you can watch the entire show on the Channels TV YouTube account or by checking out cfablog.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.